Hi there. Welcome to Strictly Ball Business. Alec here with Dalton, ready to talk about some exciting topics in the NBA, including where players might land. And we're going to start out with talking about our boy, Lauri Markkanen, a guy who was really exciting coming into the NBA, but really has trended downward most of the season since then, especially as a defensive player. And we're going to talk a little bit about where he might land and what we can expect out of him next year. So, Dalton, why don't you let me know what you think?
So it's actually been a super slow free agency. Like I'm really surprised nothing's happened. I What's taking so long is the Bulls are really trying to figure out a sign and trade for these teams. It looks like the front runner is the Mavericks. They're just trying to do a Maxi Kleba swap with Laurie. I think it makes enough sense, or I think enough. It would help enough on each side. I mean, they're essentially the same player. Laurie has a little more upside and a little more potential aside. Like he's had better seasons. Like in his 2019 season, he averaged 18 points a game. Uh, where is it? Yeah, 9 rebounds. I think if he could be that player on another team, that's more than they could ask for. And I think the Mavericks on their timeline, they want to be better. But I think if they took on Laurie and hoped he could play the small forward or even power forward, if they keep Kristaps around and he plays center, uh, I think that could fit enough. If Porzingis figures out his defense, I think that would be fine. Laurie on his best day, he's just knockdown shooter, can make plays for himself. Not a good playmaker for his team. He's just over the years, zero point 0.9 assists last year, 1.5 assists, 1.4 assists. Not ideal. Not even good. It's just those assists were just like he happened to pass it to somebody who made it. And
Yep.
but I think that's fine with when you have Doncic on that team. He's going to be the primary ball handler anyway, and Laurie's usage isn't huge. And he came into the league, they know he was just going to be a stretch four, and that's what he can be. I don't think it's that he's gotten worse. I just think it's been a decreased role, and he hasn't been able to fit into it with the Boston Celtics. And I'm not Celtics, Chicago Bulls. They've just been iffy on what they want to do with him. And I think they would take Maxi, a guy who knows his role. He can just get in there, shoot some threes, play all right defense. He's still not that defender that the Bulls don't have that guy that's going to like, I'll take on the best player on the best team yet. And Maxi's not that guy, but four that can shoot as well as Maxi, that can't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, only reason it makes sense for the Bulls is Laurie doesn't want to be there anymore, and they can get a guy who still, does what Laurie does, can shoot the ball and play the four position, but maybe come in with a better attitude. Seems like they were asking for at least a first round pick from other teams if, something like they can't get a solid player in return. And to me, that just makes no sense. Obviously, that's a big hang up for why this hasn't happened yet. Like teams aren't exactly jumping at the chance to pay Laurie $15 million and trade a first round pick for him. It wouldn't make sense.
No, no, yeah. I had one other team that could possibly trade for him, and I had actually Serge Ibaka for Laurie and TBJ, Troy Brown Jr. Just easy sign and trade. I think if the Clippers would ever decide to do it, it's just because Ibaka's been injured a lot of his time with the Clippers. And I think they just want maybe to bring in some young talent. Kawhi's gone this year. I think they're like, this is a year for seeing how far we can go. And I think Laurie isn't the defensive solution. I think they're a good enough defensive team. And this would mean starting Zubac and giving him more minutes, but I don't think that's the worst thing this year. I think the worst case scenario is you give Laurie all these minutes. He turns out to be that 18-point per game scorer, and you flip him for something better as a win now. I think Clippers could take that. And plus, Troy Brown Jr. is just a decent rotational player. He's always a good trade candidate. So,
Yeah, I think it's more likely either the Mavericks or the Pelicans. I think Pelicans could be a good spot for him as they've still got an opportunity to give some minutes at the forward position, and they're looking for more shooting. So I could see that as a possibility, but not for giving up the first round pick. But if they could give up Josh Hart in return or someone else, maybe that's worth it, seeing that they just gave Josh Hart that extension. I don't know. I know a lot of people are high on Josh Hart because he's a jack of all trades type of dude, but maybe positionally and shooting wise, Lauri can make more sense.
Yeah. If the Bulls could get Josh Hart back, I think that would be awesome. I think I don't. What's his salary this year? I mean, they'd have to match. I guess if
They
I were the
just signed a
Pelicans,
3-year, $38 million extension, and so I don't know if that goes in effect this year, but
yeah. Oh, it
probably
does.
the
He was
year
a free
after.
agent, so that's about 13 mil. You'd have to
Right.
say Lauri's going to make around 13 mil. I think that's not the worst thing in the world for the Pelicans. I mean, he would have to be bench because nor him nor Zion can play center, so he'd have to be at their 6 man at best, trying to find minutes between Ingram and Zion. I think he would play well next to Zion, being that he
Mhm.
is such a shooter. I think that's not the worst idea. I the Pelicans need defense anyway. But I think we'll get into that later. That's not a bad idea though. Um, no, yeah, Josh Hart would be great fit.
Yeah. So, I mean, with Laurie, obviously, he's kind of been trending down lately, but as a career player, 15 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, 1 assist per game. So he doesn't really give you anything there, like you said. But in terms of just shooting, last year, he did shoot 40% from three last season, and his career is 36%. So optimistically, shooters are always going to have a spot in the league. And if he can keep it 40% or around there, gonna love that. And teams are definitely going to be looking to add him. It's just a matter, like you said, it doesn't really give you anything on defense, and that's tough at the power forward position when you got bigger dudes, plowing through to get to the lane, and you're just kind of giving that up and saying that's all right.
Right. No, he's not that great of not that smart of a defender, and with his minutes and defensive rotations, I mean, he stays around 1.5 fouls, but he just doesn't get into that position where he could get even a block. And his defensive rating hasn't been terrible over the years. I mean, his best season was his worst season defensively, which kind of says something. Like he does when he's not going to put that effort on that end. I think it takes the right coach and personnel. I think the Clippers would have that personnel to maybe get that started in him, not even to make him a great defender, but at least have him buy in on that end. I don't think the Mavericks
At
can
least
get that done.
serviceable.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I think he's definitely a guy who obviously needs a new situation. He wants a new situation. We'll see if it happens this year or not. I would assume it does. So we'll keep an eye on that one.